I, 32 male, and my wife, 32 female, were huge animal lovers, and in our 8 years of being together, I thought it would keep our bond strong. In fact, this is what brought us together in the first place. I remember putting in my dating profile many moons ago about wanting to go on a date with someone who was at the park with my dog. She messaged me back and said that she wanted to do the same. Now our relationship seemed so perfect from the start. We both got along super well, and our love for animals, especially my dog, brought us closer. She didn't have a dog herself, but instead a cat. The cat and my dog grew to love each other when she moved in with me. I thought that she was the one and the most perfect person I could think of. I mean, come on, animal lover, and didn't want me to toss away my dog, my best friend. It seemed so right. Naturally, I popped the question quickly. I imagined we could all have the animal house we wanted, where we got along swimmingly. While hiking, I asked her at the top of the mountain one day. She said yes, and I was over the moon. We planned the wedding quickly and had a small ceremony where we and a few family members got together. My dog was the ring bearer because he mattered so much, and neither of us knew anyone with sons to take this responsibility. From the moment I said, I do, I knew this life would be perfect, which is why I still don't understand why my biggest love is what caused my relationship's downfall. So here we were, happily married and with our animals 3 years into our relationship. Her cat Spartacus got along super well with Bonnie, my dog. Naturally, I figured that our family of 4 would be the idea. Until she asked a question. This was about 5 years into our relationship. She said that we might get him a companion because Bonnie was getting older. I told her nope, he doesn't need it. Bonnie never seemed to care about other animals. He just liked his treats and pets from me. I took him out every day to get exercise, and while Bonnie was still spry and happy, I could tell he was getting old. The vet warned me that his joints were beginning to wear down, and he might not be the energetic dog I've had for over 10 years. She started to ask again. I kept telling her no, that this is a huge responsibility. She worked as a graphic designer, sometimes working long hours, and she didn't have the time for a dog. We had many arguments about it until one day, and she showed me a freaking PowerPoint on why she should get a dog. Convinced, I finally gave in. However, when we went to the shelter, none of the dogs seemed to fit. They were friendly, sure, but she didn't see one that fit her. She told me that she wanted a golden doodle. Naturally, these dogs are laid back, and their temperaments are great. It's perfect for old Bonnie because he's not as active as he used to be. And if the dog wanted to wrestle and roughhouse, Spartacus still acted like a kitten despite being 8. She told me that there were reputable golden doodle breeders. I gave in, told her sure, and she did her research. She brought up this breeder, which was really close to our place. So I agreed. Why not? We could get the dog and then head back by the end of the day. At least she wasn't trekking me halfway across the country for a dog. We drove over there, and then we met the breeder. His name was Alex. Now my wife is a bit flirty, but suddenly she started moving closer to him, engaged in conversation. This was just the initial introduction stage. It bothered me, but I figured maybe I was overreacting. We agreed to return in about a month, once the puppies were weaned from their mother. In that month, I saw a change in my wife. She grew distant, and when Bonnie and I went out to the park, she would stay behind. She told me it was work, but I have seen no major financial changes since then. Something wasn't right, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Naturally, I didn't want to cause trouble, so I kept mum. A month passed, and we went over there again. Now these two were incredibly friendly towards each other, to the point where I was being pushed out. This started to get me angry. I asked her if something was going on between Alex and her. They were close enough to each other, so naturally, it could be possible. But nope, nothing. She told me he was just a nice guy helping her get her dog ready. We argued about it, and she told me I was being paranoid. I told her I didn't appreciate being left out of the decisions. We both needed space. Then it came time to adopt the little golden doodle. We paid the breeder fee, which is insane. I don't know why I thought spending over $1,000 on a dog was a good idea, and we took our tiny boy Moose home. Moose and Boney did well together, but I noticed she was not spending much time with the dog. I told her he needed some attention, and she brushed me off. Sometimes we got into fights over this. She would say to me she was going somewhere and leave me with the dogs. This was her responsibility. So naturally, I'm getting a little bit pissed at this point. One day after she left, I realized she didn't take her phone. Curiosity got the better of me, and like a bloodhound, I looked through it. There were texts between her and Alex, some of them flirty. He had a different name on her phone, and the spicy messages were hidden. The longer I read them, the angrier I got. So naturally, I had to do something about this. I wasn't going to let this bitch who conned me into buying a dog that was over $1,000 get away with this. She told Alex she wanted me to get the dog to help him so they could elope together. I got in the car, and I had Bonnie with me. We drove over to the ranch house where Alex was. The gate was open, and I saw a light on. I went through the back, and that's when I got an idea. I let Bonnie in first. They had the door open to the bedroom. There weren't any animals inside, so they didn't have to worry. Bonnie jumped on the bed and licked her face. I stepped inside, catching them in the act. My wife pulled away, and she accused me of being the bad guy, stalking and spying. I confronted her about the cheating. The tears fell, crocodile tears, in my opinion. She asked if she could forgive me. She said that Alex and she hit it off well, and she didn't mean to hurt me. But of course, the damage was done. I told her not to come home. I changed the locks and called my lawyer shortly after that for the divorce proceedings. I told her that if she loved Alex so much, she should live with him. The proceedings went through quickly, and I got the house, the cars, and the golden doodle. While he was a handful, he became Bonnie's companion. It's a blessing in this otherwise messed up story. I blasted Alex's breeder business all over social media, posting that he's a cheater, a liar, and will steal wives. Naturally, the public stopped going to his place, and from what I saw, it closed. Good riddance. The dogs, Spartacus, and I are still in that house. She hasn't tried to contact me, and I think she either ran off with Alex or is alone. Neither of them is in my life anymore, and I do not want to find out. OP, what happened to you is terrible. To think that she acted like your perfect partner and then leaves the second someone better comes along is sick. As for the dogs, she got one to help Alex so she could run away with them, which is very selfish on her part. Anyways, I wish you all the best and hope you are able to recover from this. Now let's get into our second story for today. I, 30 male, and my wife, 31 female, have been together for over 12 years. We met when we were young and hit it off almost immediately. We were at a Halloween party, dressed in matching costumes without even planning it. I courted her, and within those 6 months, we started dating, went steady, and then 2 years later, I asked her to marry me. I was 20, and she was 21. We got married 5 years later. Yes, it took a while, but between her getting pregnant and me trying to get my degree, things got crazy. School ate up so much of my time. She also went to hairdressing school and worked on the side as a beautician while raising our son. Time passed, and when it was time, we had a wedding. It was perfect. Flowers, extravagance, you name it, we had it. It was the best day of my life. When I think about her eyes, as she said I do, it brings joy to me. Now, though, it brings only heartache of what's been lost. After we got married, we moved into a nicer house. Work was tedious, and for both of us, it was hard to get time for each other. Tommy, my son, grew up, and soon he needed us less. My wife and I started to have more free time. We took advantage of that and encouraged intimacy. However, something seemed wrong. I couldn't shake it, but I had a bad feeling about it. She accused me of paranoia plenty of times, but this time, it felt like there was an exterior force working, driving me crazy. It was a month from our 5-year anniversary. I wanted to do something special. I asked her where she wanted to go. She told me a cabin in the woods would be good. It sounded perfect, a chance for us to have some alone time and rekindle our relationship. At least, that's what I told myself. I thought it was just a lull in our relationship, but it became something more. We packed our stuff, and Tommy got pizza money. He was 9, and I had a family member check on him, but he's the type of kid that's good with Fortnite and TikTok in front of him, even though I limit that when I'm at home. We drove out to the Smokies and over to our cabin. When we arrived, a man with large muscles and a trimmed beard greeted us. He's the owner of these cabins. When we got in there, I looked over at my wife. She did a full 180 from the woman I'd been with for the last decade. She was smiling, a little flirty, and kept asking for the guy's name. He just said it was Joe and nothing more. After we checked in, I asked her what that was about. She just said he was a nice guy. However, I didn't buy it. We had the entire weekend together. I thought maybe she would get out of it. Before we got to the car, she told me she left something inside. I signed and told her to go get it. She took a little longer than I expected, but I thought maybe she dropped it. When we got to the cabin, we unpacked. My wife seemed strained. I asked her if there was anything wrong. She said no, but she was feeling a bit sick. I told her going on a hike might help, but she said she wasn't feeling super great. Naturally, I wanted to stay behind. She told me I didn't have to, that she would be fine, and that she didn't want me to miss the sunset. I said fine, and I went up alone. I saw the sunset, but I missed my wife. When I got back, I saw a light turn off in one of the back rooms. It was strange, but I dismissed it. I came in, and my wife seemed happier. We cuddled around the fire and told stories. I thought things were great. The next day, we went hiking and saw more views, but my wife seemed a little distant. She kept checking her phone, even though we weren't in an area with service. I asked her what the problem was. She told me she was worried about Tommy. Yeah, she was worried about something, all right, just not him. That evening, my wife said she wanted to go out to the thermal baths they had. I offered to join her, but she said it was fine. We got into an argument, and finally, I asked her what was going on. She insisted nothing was, and that she just wanted to soak her aching muscles. She did have some physical problems, but I didn't think that she would soak for well over an hour. When she came back, I tried to have sex with her, but she was acting weird. Sure, it was alright, but she wasn't into it per se. Now she always seemed to enjoy it until, of course, tonight. Okay, something was very wrong. I tried to ask her again, but she shut me out. The next day, she was sick. I wasn't in the mood to argue, but I wanted to hike. She told me to take pictures and see it without me. I told her that I wanted to go with her. We got into a heated argument to the point that I needed some space. I left the cabin. That was where I made my first mistake. I spent the rest of the day outside, but when I tried talking to my wife, telling her that I was sorry, I couldn't get a hold of her. This bothered me. Even when we had our worst arguments, she would always come back to me. I had a bad feeling in the pit of my gut about this. I got back early, not even bothering to let her know that I was coming back. When I got closer, I noticed the backlight was dimmed and there were sounds. At first, I assumed it was a wild animal, but it wasn't. I opened the door very quietly and peered inside. What I saw was like a gut punch to the heart. There was my wife, riding Joe. She looked happy, more than she ever did with me. I dropped my backpack and stared in shock. When she finally realized I was there, she crawled off him. She told me that she was sorry and she couldn't get enough of him. She told him that he seduced her. I looked at Joe, asking him if it was true. Joe said no, that she was the one who made all the advances, and he even said that he didn't want to do this, but she forced herself on him. I was crushed. My wife, my love for over a decade, pushed me away for a random stranger. She begged me to take her back, but I told her no. She did this on our anniversary. What was she thinking, doing this sort of thing? I told her that we were over, took off the ring, and said that if she wanted out, she should have said something. That's when she spilled that everything in the relationship was my fault, gaslighting me into making it seem I was to blame for everything. Sure enough, most of the problems were caused by her. In a fury, I drove back, leaving her stranded with Joe at the cabin. If she wanted him so badly, then she could have him. Tommy was a little annoyed that I got back early since he couldn't play Fortnite all the time. In anger, I told him that Mom and Dad weren't together anymore. He asked what happened, and I told him he'd know when he was older. My lawyer helped, and I got the house, the cars, everything. Me and my wife share custody with our son. I don't know if Joe ended up marrying my wife or if he was but another fling. I didn't care. Since then, I've been focusing on my job, raising Tommy, and preventing those same mistakes. I thought I married my one true love, but it turns out she was a monster in disguise. OP, this is quite devastating. Anniversaries are supposed to be special. I know you've spent all that time trying to fix things but weren't able to. Her cheating on you is terrible on so many levels, especially on a weekend for you two to reconnect. I hope you're able to find love and that things get better for you and Tommy. I hope the right one will come along and will communicate her issues instead of cheating on you. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.